Hi guys, welcome back to another video, Kennedy's Garage. Thanks for checking us out to start with, but we have a Ford Fiesta, 2006 Ford Fiesta. Thought it might be nice to do something petrol maybe, or something for a change. She's at the fail in the NCT, or the, I suppose, equivalent to the MOT in Ireland. Fast code scan, P0136, heater O2 sensor circuit, battery voltage malfunction, and system too rich. I'd say I'm not going to be paying too much attention to the battery voltage circuit malfunction for now. Not my job. His emissions related is what we're going after. So we're going to go after the oxygen sensor. The O2 sensor is an oxygen sensor, and the system too rich. System too rich is going to be happening because of the oxygen sensor. So shares. Right, we're going to go back. We're going to have a little bit of look at data. Go, baby. Oh, Jesus. Continue. I'm having problems with my phones and scan tools. The gloves, as soiled as they are doubled up. You can see two pairs of them there, so I have a job touching all the touch screens. They don't work too well. I'm going to customize this screen and deselect all. Maybe lads don't want to see this stuff, but we're going to have a look at O2 sensor. From the code, I don't know which O2 sensor. Oh my gosh. Which one is giving me the problem? They're the millivolts we're going to be looking at. And did I see, or can I see fuel trims? Okay, maybe we'll have a look at the heaters in these things just for the crack. And again, sometimes I probably shouldn't, but I do sometimes like the graph view. Now, I'm only studying, trying to make sense of what I'm looking at for a moment. Anyway, we have the O2 sensor heater, O2 sensor heater. We have O2 sensor before the cat, millivolts, O2 sensor after the cat, millivolts. Just to explain, the job of the first lambda sensor is to send information back to the engine ECU about what the mixture is like going into the engine by analysing the exhaust gas that's coming out. What the engine ECU then will do from that information, if this sees a rich condition, the higher 0.8 of a volt, if it sees a rich condition, it'll lean, the engine ECU will make the mixture leaner. Then if it sees a lean condition, the engine ECU will make it richer. So the reason for this fluctuation up and down is lean, rich, lean, rich, lean, rich, lean, rich. Should be happening and doing its job quite fast. What I'm seeing here then is 400, so that's actually correct. I'm kind of happy enough with that. Might get out of here and get into OBD, because OBD might be nicer. We'll see this short-term mixture adaptation, I'm not very familiar with it, so I can't make a huge amount of head or tail of it. Probably a little bit strange that I don't. It's relatively cold, so you can see the temperature there. Maybe it's starting to get warm. To be honest with you, me having it revved up, because I'm holding at 2000 RPM, 2.5. It's starting to warm up quite fast, but I'm surprised that maybe I didn't see some heater coming on somewhere off. And here again, off. That I didn't see a heater element in the lambda sensors coming on. The second lambda sensor, this is after the catalytic converter. What that's actually doing is monitoring how well the catalytic converter is performing. If this sensor is mimicking that, so the same up down, which it does, but if it has the same range of voltage, I call it 0.2 to 0.8, some people call it 0 to 1. If you have the same, what do we call it, amplitude of voltage happening at this sensor here, the catalytic converter is not doing its job correct. It has failed. Okay? If that's the story. What you will see is it will fluctuate, so it's going to copy that waveform here, but it gets very small. Should always kind of hover a ballpark of around 0.5 of a volt, 500 millivolts. So if you're zooming in with an oscilloscope, you will see that same oscillations, but with a smaller range. So 0.5, 0.2 to 0.5, 6, 7, within 1/10 of a volt. So what I'm seeing here anyway is our cat is starting to improve. It's getting warmer. The cat is probably temperature coming up maybe to 200-300 degrees at this point in time. We'll have to go out underneath the bonnet. I'm going to do a visual, but just to explain why that oscillates. That's the engine ECU switching it from rich to lean, from lean to rich, from rich to lean, lean to rich. That's what it's doing here. This is only feeding information back about how the catalytic converter is doing or operating. Okay, so I'm watching that, see that, quite like that. Watching that, I'm actually quite liking that as well. You can see it's around 500 millivolts now, or 0.5 of a volt. Okay, and the oscillations are starting to come about at this point. So you can see the exact same process there as this, but nowhere near as big in a range. Okay, now the range is starting to get a little bit, I was going to say bigger there, but it's not. We'll keep it going for a minute, see what the story is. I suppose over time I can see that our fuel short-term mixture adaptation, which I'm classing as kind of a fuel trim, it's getting a bit, well, it's taking away 10% of fuel according as I rev it up. So that was probably at idle, and this is potentially when I have it held up at 2,500 RPM. I'm going to go underneath the bonnet, do a little bit of homework, have a look, see what I find. Might do a little bit of drilling into the fault code. I think it was P0137, and see where I end up. Just after exiting out of manufacturer specific, and I'm going back into OBD. And what I'm looking at here is freeze frame data. Freeze frame data is when the engine ECU triggered a fault code or saved or stored that fault code. So the fault code that triggered it was P0172, system 2 reach bank 1. You can see temperature 100 degrees, so it was warm. Engine speed 2,985. Map off the top of my head, couldn't tell you. I'm familiar with kPa, HPa, that's kilopascals, hectopascals. I'm not even going to go there right now, but I do see that we're taking fuel away on our long term. We're taking a lot of fuel away on our short term. So the short term fuel trim is taking away 19%. Total trim 19 and 6 is taking away 25% fuel from it, and even at that we're probably too rich. Okay, so just to show OBD, we'll go back out of this again. Probably because of this explaining, it's probably longer than what I would have. I'm not going to clear anything. I'm looking for test parameter, display current data. I want to see this, so we're going into the live data. That was freeze frame data, so it's just a screenshot or a snippet of information for when it actually logged the fault code. Okay, deselect all. Now let's see, we're going to go with him. We're going to go with him. He might, rather than millivolts, that could be giving us volts. I want long and short term. There's that one. There's that one. Graph view. Ooh. You can see that. Short term fuel trim at this point is minus 20 on the short term. Long term is minus 5. Total trim minus 20 plus minus 5 is 25. It's fluctuating. I don't know. As you see what I see. Pause it out if someone calls. Just to show before it goes off the screen. It has just started ignoring, or something's that happening with lambda sensor 1. Lambda sensor 2 now is going, I would say, ooh, see that? And now she's back. It's back online. Wow. Interesting. Getting rid of that glare if I can. Interesting. I must go and have a look. I'm probably, just because of that glitch and dropout, I don't know why it has happened, but my gut feeling is right now we're going to have potentially a lambda sensor. And she's off again. A lambda sensor is that they're failing on this. I would say probably leave it warm, get a scope and back probe the signal wire just to be sure that there's nothing strange happening. What I could do is I could get a test light, go from battery negative and go into the signal wire, which would pull this down to ground, which would signify a lean condition. Am I right? Just interesting. Okay guys, sorry, just to show, it's back and then it drops out. But you can see our fuel trims, so we are locking out or failing out or falling out or whatever we want to call it, glitching at 0.8 of a volt, where fuel trims then is taking away fuel because this is showing a rich condition. So this is potentially maxed out here at minus 20 or so, trying to take away all the fuel that it sees up here. So we have to just verify that that is a rich condition. It's actually going to come back now. I can see it dropping here and it's going to come back for a short period of time. It's nearly like it's temperature related. Once it gets warm, it loses itself and then it comes back. I can hear the engine revs changing once it's happening as well. I'm not going to pay a whole lot of attention to this right now. This is the one that I'm going to be chasing after. Sensor 1. Alright, your test and see when it'll go offline again. There, she's gone. Gone offline, that sensor. I'm going to go out, I'll hold the revs at that. I'm going to get a test light, put it to the ground, watch that go down, see my fuel trims hopefully come back. And you can see the fuel trims are trying to come back once that's actually, because once that's actually doing its job, the fuel trims are trying to come back slightly. But the minute that goes rich, that goes full, fix the problem, take fuel away. Interesting. Okay guys, just trying to explain exactly what was happening here. Right, it looks like this yoke, we never had over 5 on our long-term trim. And 20 was the highest I've had on my short-term trim. So, what it looks like is the maximum trim that this Ford could do was 25. A total trim of 25. Minus 20, minus 5. Maybe slightly above it, but minus 5. Now, what was happening is our lambda sensor was switching, and because the car was warm, it was in a thing called closed loop. some guys might know what closed loop is. Closed loop is where the actual car is warm, and the engine ECU is paying attention to lambda sensors and fuel trims to try and keep the car as clean and efficient, I suppose, emission friendly as possible. But what it was seeing was it would start looking at the lambda sensor. It would start paying attention to its fuel trims. But because the trims were maxed out, taking fuel away, it was deciding to go into open loop every so often. Reading one of Scanner Danner's books, and have done it before, and I'd seen it on notes that I had, that this happens, which I wouldn't have been, I suppose, familiar with when I was making my videos. But at this point in time, went home, had a sleep, had a think, had a read of some notes, and that's what it's doing. So it's going into open loop. Time is traveling on by. When time is traveling on by, all of a sudden then it would go back and it would go into closed loop again. Try and see if it could control this rich condition when it was looking at its lambda sensor at that stage, and then it would go back into open loop. So closed, open, happening, repeating itself along the way. What was happening to it? After talking to the customer, this car was actually burning a lot of oil. It wasn't a huge amount of smoke coming out the back for, but it was burning a lot of oil. One of the giveaways was around the oil filler cap. We had dampness from it being topped up and kind of wet, where a bit of the cap was broke off and all this kind of stuff. So I spoke to him, and yes, it was going through a good bit of oil on a regular basis. So we didn't have a huge amount wrong with our cat, or at least it didn't damage our cat. I didn't believe at a pint. Now we had 0.6 of a volt here and 0.8, but it might have been slightly damaged, slightly affected. But what was happening to it is it was going into open loop, and when it was going into open loop, it was just kind of defaulting, paying no attention to fuel trims, no attention to lambda sensors or any of that stuff. So the reason it was going this, open loop, closed loop, open loop, closed loop, open loop, or vice versa, open loop, closed, open, closed, open, closed, was because it was maxed out here on our fuel trims and couldn't do any better. Okay, and all caused by it burning oil. But just maybe, I hope it was some bit of help to you to see what way we'd look at what lambda sensors are doing, and what the second lambda, that's the first lambda sensor here, what the second lambda sensor is doing, and how you can look and see what's happening inside the catalytic converter from the second lambda sensor, and how the actual catalytic converter is reacting or doing its job. Okay, so if the second one is mimicking the first one, basically we have a faulty cat. The oxygen content is staying the same after the cat post catalytic converter as it was pre catalytic converter. Okay, so just to show what we're doing with live data and what we look at. Okay, lambda sensors, fast overview of live data on them. Guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if this is of any good to you, and talk to you in the next video.